Shields up, Iron Breakers. Welcome back to Monster Hunter, and today we're going to be talking about a feature that I'm hoping is going to make a return for Monster Hunter Wilds. The feature in question today is the Switch Skill feature. It was initially introduced in Monster Hunter Rise, and according to the feedback that I've received from my community, both during live streams as well as in a lot of comments in my videos, this is a feature that most of the people really appreciated. And me personally, I actually think it adds quite a bit of depth to the game in a very good way because it keeps things fresh while you are, going up the different ranks of the game and upgrading your weapons, upgrading your armor, and doing certain quests. It adds a little bit of variability to your gameplay, which I personally find to be a very good thing. Now, I also understand if you haven't played Monster Hunter Rise or Sunbreak, you might be questioning what the hell is Switch Skills, or if you've played it and maybe you haven't played it in a while, you might be confusing it even with the Swap Scroll skill, which is something very different. So let me try to explain what the feature is all about for those of you that might not remember. So Switch Skills was basically something that was introduced very early in the campaign of Monster Hunter Rise, and it would allow you to switch out some of the moves of your weapon for a different move, or sometimes just a slightly variation on a move that you would have in the weapon that would give you different openings to do different things. This is not to be confused with the scroll swap function, which is something that allowed you to basically swap between two completely distinct movesets while in the heat of battle, and this is actually something that I would not want to make a return. And I know that this is going to be a little bit divisive because I know that a lot of people really enjoyed the scroll swap situation, and I think it's pretty cool, but I think that those particular type of features would work better in a more arcadey type game like whatever Monster Hunter is going to come after Monster Hunter Wilds, which a lot of people in the community are assuming is going to be a more grounded experience in the vein of Monster Hunter World as opposed to something more arcadey like Rise and Sunbreak. That is where I think that those crazy things like, oh, I'm just going to swap out my entire moveset, have these different special attacks and all of these things, I think that works better for the more arcadey versions of Monster Hunter, whereas, the more grounded versions like World and Wilds, hopefully, we're making a couple of assumptions here, is something where you want to keep things a little bit more grounded. Now, to give you guys an example, the way that this worked in the case of, for instance, the gun lance, you have a function in the gun lance which is the charge shell. This is where you, instead of just tapping the shelling button, which just does an explosion, you can keep the button pressed and it will charge shells for a little bit longer and then it will explode, deal a little bit more damage, right? So you could swap out this skill for a different skill called Blast Dash, which is one of the best skills in the whole friggin' game whenever it comes to Monster Hunter Rise, I'll tell you that right now. You basically had access to a mobility skill. So you would sacrifice the ability to be able to charge your shells, and instead you would now be able to Blast Dash. And you could do this from the air, you could do this from the ground. It was an absolute ton of fun. As a matter of fact, Capcom, can we please have Blast Dash for Monster Hunter Wilds? Although, I'm a little bit of two minds when it comes to Blast Dash. I'm like, I really want it back, but at the same time, I also want it to be a little bit more grounded, so I'm not sure if it would be something that would be able to be adapted into the gameplay of Monster Hunter Wilds. We shall see how that pans out. But the idea remains, right? This would be something where you would be unlocking different moves for your weapons as you are advancing through the different ranks of the game, and this keeps the experience a little bit more fresh because you get to experiment with different moves in your weapon, and you basically get to customize the weapon to really suit your needs. As a matter of fact, I would actually like them to expand upon the Switch skill system, because whenever it came to Monster Hunter Rise, you basically had two choices for most of the moves. As a matter of fact, I think it was like 4 choices total that you would get, because in the gun lance, from what I can remember, and I'm not going to go back and check everything out, but from what I can remember, you could choose between charge shell and blast dash, and then you had quick reload or guard reload. I think there might be one more. Yeah, it was hail cutter and ground splitter. Yeah, that's it. We had hail cutter and ground splitter. These would be like there was actually 6 choices that you would have for each of the weapons. I would actually like to see that expanded upon to the point where you would have maybe 4 choices per slot of switch skill, because I kind of feel like it was always an experience whenever I unlocked one of these, because I'd be like, oh, I unlocked one of these, and then I would go into the training room and then I would test it out, and I was like, oh, let's see how this does in a hunt and whatnot. As opposed to, in other Monster Hunter games, you would usually master the moveset of your weapon very much early into the game, because the moveset is the moveset is the moveset, and it doesn't really change. Now, naturally, you can argue, well, with Generations Ultimate, we also had like Hunter Arts, and that kind of like changed the way that things operate, and I agree. But, like I said, I'm just looking for something more in line with what they did in Monster Hunter Rise, because I found that to be very satisfying, to the point where we're even unlocking stuff all the way into high rank, and then eventually when Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak released, we unlocked stuff all the way up in Master Rank as well. And these would be things, like I said, that would be kind of like build defining in a lot of ways. So to give you guys an idea, one of the skills was quick reload and guard reload. Again, I'm going to be focusing mostly on gun lance because that's what's freshest in my memory. So quick reload is a skill that basically allows you to, after you do any move with the gun lance, you can do a quick reload, and it reloads your shells. And the thing about quick reload is that it is a natural progression that follows up into a slam. So this means that if you're playing a gun lance that is good for the slam burst playstyle, where you would go like, slam, boom, then having quick reload was usually something that was very preferable to having guard reload, which I'll touch up on in a couple of seconds here, because you would be going like, okay, I'm ready to do my full burst. Instead of like going into cumbersome combos, you just be going like, okay, shell, quick reload, boom, or poke, quick reload, boom. You could instantly go into your slam burst combo. That's why you would want a quick reload. By contrast, whenever it came to guard reload, this was a move that instead of, giving you the quick reload into slam, it actually did not combo into slam, but it made it so that whenever you reloaded, you were also blocking. Now, this gave you a really cool advantage to whenever you would be playing wide shell, which is kind of like a poke playstyle, or even just shell playstyle. You could go like bang, bang, quick reload, bang, bang. And it was really good because it allowed you to basically be on top of the monster, right in the monster's face whenever you had these monsters that were super aggressive, and you'd be able to just like constantly punish them by, staying right in their face. And the moment they're about to do an attack, you go like quick reload, block, and then boom, boom, quick reload, block. So it basically, as you can tell, enabled you two completely different playstyles by just switching out this one skill. And that's one of the reasons why it kept things a lot more fresh. This was also not the only thing that people used it for, because early into the lifespan of Monster Hunter Rise, there was also another playstyle which was kind of like, I don't know, I'm going to call it steak spam, but it basically consisted of people spamming wyvern steak onto monsters. And because a quick reload did not reload your wyvern steak, but guard reload did, a lot of people would be going like, oh man, I can just like, boom, slap them with the steak, quick reload, slap them with the steak again, quick reload. And it's just, I'm just talking about one weapon. Imagine this across all of the weapons, and imagine this potentially with even more moves. So instead of just having quick reload and guard reload, you could have like a different type of reload. I guess reload is maybe not the best idea, but like for instance, the way that we had it in Sunbreak for the Hail Cutter swap, which Hail Cutter was a skill where you'd go up into the air and then come back down and boom, full burst with a big attack in the middle and did a ton of damage. And then you had Ground Splitter, which increased your shelling damage for a certain period of time. When Sunbreak was introduced, they added something called Bullet Barrage, which was gorgeous attack. Most other players hated it because whenever you see a gun lancer go in with a bullet barrage, you're like, well, I'm gonna go get sent flying. But basically in there, we already had like 3 different choices, and it was, a really meaningful choice depending on which one you picked. Even though Sunbreak also made that choice not be as meaningful, but because then you introduce the switch, the scroll switch thing, which again is one of the things that I don't want to see come back, because that would allow you to have access to more than one of these moves, depending on which scroll you had active. I want it to be important for hunters to choose which skills they bring to the field, and I want those skills to change as you advance through the game, because my experience with Rise was extremely positive on due to that, because usually whenever I'm playing a Monster Hunter game, I have this tendency to like, I'll play a weapon and then eventually I'm like, oh, I'm getting a little bit bored of this weapon, so now I'm going to swap a little bit. So in the case of Monster Hunter World, I would usually be swapping between gun lance, sword and shield, and charge blade, because those are like 3 of my favorite weapons, right? So I'd be swapping between those as I would be leveling up, which is a good thing to swap and play different weapons and all that. But I know that there's also a lot of players that like to focus exclusively on one weapon, and with the switch with the switch skill system, it actually allowed them to go ahead and stick with that one weapon while still keeping things fresh and allowing for a certain degree of experimentation. Maybe four different moves per slot might be a little bit too much, because that's going to be hard to balance, but I would like to see at least like 3 different moves per slot so that you can really change stuff around. Maybe 4 different slots that you could switch, you know, so that you can really customize the moveset of your weapon to your liking, and you unlock these as you are playing through the game. This, I think, would actually be absolutely phenomenal. But I'm also very curious to hear from you guys. What do you guys think about this? Is this a feature that you would like to see on Monster Hunter Wilds? And again, I want to make it perfectly clear. We're talking about switch skills, not scroll swaps. Okay? Thank you all very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe, bell notification icon, all that jazz. I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay strong, stay safe. Peace out.